AP Nairobi, Kenya. In the midst of a protracted conflict, Russia has stopped its commitment to the agreement that had allowed Ukraine to move grain from its Black Sea ports safely. It now looks that the other parties are on their own. Despite initially claiming that more than 200 ships, many of which were loaded and prepared to depart, were delayed after Russia's weekend declaration, Ukraine reported a dozen ships had sailed on Monday. These exports are essential for nations in Africa, the Middle East, and parts of Asia where many people are already suffering from hunger. Ukraine and Russia are important global providers of wheat, barley, sunflower oil, and other foods. What Russia's choice might entail for a globe that is growing more concerned about food security and high food costs is as follows. What has the agreement reached? Since Russia's invasion in February, the grain effort has been a rare instance of cooperation between Ukraine and Russia. More than 9 million tons of grain in 397 ships have been able to safely depart Ukrainian ports because to a deal mediated by the United Nations and Turkey. According to the UN, the grain pact has reduced global food prices by 15% from their peak in March. When the agreement expires on November 19, the Secretary General had encouraged Russia and Ukraine to extend it. Before the grain agreement was negotiated, the United States and Europe charged Russia with starving weak regions of the world by preventing exports. Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, has said that since the agreement, the majority of the exported grain has gone to Europe rather than the world's poorest countries. However, according to a report released by the UN Conference on Trade and Development last week, the majority of exported wheat is going to less developed countries, with close to 20% of that total. According to Ukraine, more than 5 million tons of wheat have been transported to countries in Africa and Asia, with 190,000 tons of that wheat going to states receiving food from the UN World Food Programme. How come the ships are still going? The issue, according to Glauber, a former head economist at the U.S. Department of Agriculture, is whether new ships are willing to take the chance of sailing without Russia's safety guarantees. I think the response is no, he said. The cost of insurance for these boats will increase and probably become exorbitant for insurance firms and other parties that are insuring them. Ship monitoring charts, according to William Osnato, a senior research analyst with agriculture data and analytics firm Grow Intelligence, don't show any ships traveling in the direction of Odessa. When asked which ships might set sail, a spokesperson for the Joint Coordination Center, which oversees ship logistics and inspection, gave no immediate answer. Why did this happen? While Russia's grain exports are unaffected by sanctions and a separate wartime agreement was designed to open the way for Moscow's shipments of food and fertilizer, some companies have been leery. According to Glauber, developing nations will have to find new grain suppliers and pay more from places like the US, Argentina, and Australia where dry weather or rain are difficulties. High prices, however, encourage farmers to increase their planting, and nations like Brazil and India, who are not generally major wheat exporters, have increased their shipments. To make up for Ukraine's 10% share of global wheat exports, he declared that the world needs some pretty enormous crops. How else is the food supply affected? According to Meyer, the American West's failing maize production, the possibility of a U.S. rail strike, and low water levels in the Mississippi River, which hinder the export of American agriculture products, are also occupying grain markets. However, worries are resurfacing in areas of the African continent where prices have stayed high. According to Sean Ferris, an expert on agriculture and markets for Catholic Relief Services, a partner in World Food Program deliveries, located in Kenya, this will send another tiny shockwave through the markets, and I think it will boost prices for a time. This will indicate that prices in East Africa, which are already at record highs, won't be declining anytime soon. According to him, the most recent decline in Ukrainian exports adds more pressure. There might not be substitutes like rice in Asia or sorghum elsewhere in Africa, in impoverished North African and Middle Eastern nations where bread is an essential component of people's meals, Glauber added. That creates the possibility of unrest in the regions where soaring bread prices sparked the Arab Spring revolutions. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi personally visited wheat farms this spring as the harvest got underway in Egypt, the top wheat importer in the world. However, because of the economic crisis and Egypt's currency's record low value compared to the US dollar, it is now more challenging to purchase imported wheat. The wheat is available, but it will cost a lot, according to Glauber.